The Star of the Invisible Empire, Jean Parvulesco Alexander Dugin. By Razumov. https://eurasianist-archive.com/2019/05/06/ the star of invisible empire Jean Parvulesco. Author, Alexander Dugin. Source, Open Revolt. Article first published in 1994 in the newspaper Zavtra, republished in Alexander Dugin, Knights Templar of the Proletariat, Moscow, Arctagia, 1997. Profession, visionary. Jean Parvulesco is a living mystery of European literature. A mystic, poet, novelist, literary critic, expert in political intrigues, revolutionary, and friend and confidant of many European luminaries of the second half of the 20th century, from Ezra Pound and Julius Evola to Raymond Abelayo and Arnaud Breker. Parvulesco's true identity remains a mystery. A Romanian who fled to the West in the 1940s, he became one of the most prominent French stylists of modern prose and poetry. But whatever his works might have been, from tantric dances to complex occult novels to biographies of his great friends, especially the Red Son of Raymond Abelayo, Parvulesco's real vocation is that of a visionary, a direct and inspired contemplator of the spiritual spheres which reveal themselves to the chosen behind the gloomy and flat visibility of the modern profane world. At the same time, Parvulesco has nothing in common with the vulgar representatives of the modern neo-mysticism that is so widespread today as a kind of instrumental compensation for the techno-information routines of everyday life. Parvulesco's vision is dark and tragic. He has no illusions as to the hellish, infernal nature of the modern world. In this sense, he is akin to a traditionalist. The infantile optimism of the theosophists, occultists, and pseudo-mystical conserves of New Age are extremely foreign to Parvulesco. But unlike many traditionalists of an academic temperament, he does not restrict himself to skeptical lamentations of the crisis of the modern world and bare, marginal condemnations of the material civilization of the end of the Kali Yuga. Jean Parvulesco's texts are full of the sacred, which speaks directly through them, on the dreamlike, almost prophetic level of a strange revelation, a visit which makes its way from the higher spheres through the magical blockade of dark energies which fill today's world and the collective and cosmic psyche. Parvulesco is an authentic visionary. He is sufficiently profound and doctrinally honed, enough so as to not lead one to mistake the first phantoms of subtle reality for messengers of light. At the same time, he strains his intuition to the extreme in a dangerous and risky journey inward towards the center of the black lake of the modern spirit, so as to go without fear beyond the limits of fixed rational and dogmatic norms, hence the multi-leveled paradoxes which saturate Parvulesco's books. Parvulesco's message can be defined in the following manner. The sacred has disappeared from the daily reality of the modern world, and it is completely obvious that we live in the end times. This sacred has not disappeared, since, being eternal, it cannot disappear, but it has passed into the nocturnal, invisible matrix and is now ready to descend upon the human, physical cosmos in a terrifying apocalyptic moment, the apogee of history, the point at which the world, having forgotten its spiritual nature and disowned it, will be forced to confront it in the harsh flash of revelation. This has not happened yet. Humanity is fast asleep in its dark, material illusions, while only the chosen, the visionaries, the members of the secret brotherhood, the apocalyptic order, are watching awake, secretly preparing the path for the coming of the final hour, the kingdom of heaven, the great empire of the end. Parvulesco considers himself to be not a writer, but a herald of this invisible empire, thus is titled his final book, The Star of the Invisible Empire, a speaker of the occult parliament of the planetary elite of the awakened. His personality doubles, triples, and quadruples in the characters of his novels, where the author himself is at work alongside his counterparts, his occult doubles, real historical figures, otherworldly shadows, the shells of the outer twilight, and the secret agencies of occult intelligence services. Parvulesco unveils not merely a scenography of individual fantasies or memories, but a whole parallel world. The populations of his texts are genuinely frightening, their strange, quite often dark, humor sometimes reaches the sacred relics of religion, dogma, and canons, thereby awakening and freeing their inner, secret essence from the stupid fetishistic veneration which kills the spirit. Following the prescriptions of Tantra, Parvulesco makes language come alive, he makes it rapid and operational. This is why his texts are more than literature. They are magical spells and scandalous revelations. They are provocations of events and predictions of their meaning. They are immersion into the ocean of interiorness, into the underground tunnels of the hidden, into the frightening empire of that which dwells inside each of us. This is why Parvulesco can at times be just as frightening as any true genius. He attentively and scientifically studies us from within, and his experiments at times overstep well-established boundaries. Parvulesco is a visionary anatomist. In the beginning was conspiracy. Parvulesco answers clearly and paradoxically at once that reality is dual in nature. Secret agents of being and oblivion are present in all key spheres of governance in the modern world, directing all processes of civilization. The fabric of actual, concrete history is derived from the superimposition of these energetic vectors of two occult networks upon one another. Generals and terrorists, spies and poets, presidents and occultists, church fathers and heresiarches, mafiosi and ascetics, Freemasons and naturalists, prostitutes and blessed saints, salon artists and workers' movement activists, archaeologists and forgers are all merely obedient actors in a saturated conspirological drama. Who knows what social identity hides a higher initiate? A robber or beggar often turns out to be the curator of the president or the pope, and a military commander or banker can be puppets of a salon poet, behind the grotesque and imaginative personality of whom lurks a cold master and architect of harsh political history. Against demons and democracy. The Star of the Invisible Empire is Parvulesco's final and key novel. It ties together all the threads of his previous books. It describes the nearing of the final denouement of the transcendent meta-history of which our author has been a chronicler. Here is his resume. All across the planet, especially in France and Portugal, as well as Peru and Mexico, and in the magical acupuncture points of the occult West, the agents of oblivion have erected black pyramids, physical and superphysical installations designed to facilitate the direct invasion of the world by demonic energies, the hordes of the Gogs and Magogs. This apocalyptic project bears the secret name Project Aquarius. Corresponding to the relevant astrological symbolism, the age of Aquarius dawns and carries with it not joy and harmony, as the agents of oblivion try to reassure humanity, but decomposition, decay, chaos, death, and dissolution in the lower waters. The hero of Star of the Invisible Empire, Tony d'Entremont, describes his prophetic vision of the onset of the Aquarian epoch thusly. I see, together with Lovecraft, the swarming of gigantic, repulsive masses, moving in endless waves, advancing on the last, residual crystal structures of the resistance of the spiritual elite. I behold in the ecstatic powerlessness of my hallucinatory awakening a flickering black foam, a foam of black dissolution, the terror of the democratic stench, and the terrible apparatuses of these convulsing corpses which, in the make-up of dirty whores with deceitful smiles, with the Californian beach smile of European anti-fascists, with the smile of mannequin whores from glittering showcases, I would define them as such, are preparing our final defeat, are leading us whither not even they know or, rather, know all too well, all along the way sucking the bone marrow out of us. These are the hallucinatory leaden cloaks of human rights, the fecal vomit emissions of hell, although by saying such I am insulting hell. The servants of Aquarius, by opening the way to the human world for the black shells of the outer twilight, are striving to present their counter-natural advent as a blessing, as salvation, as the peak of evolution, while hiding their essence, the vomito negro, black vomit, under the political and spiritualist slogan of the New Age or New World Order. Against the conspiracy of Aquarius, in which the whole terrifying metagalactic network of the agents of oblivion seeking their final embodiment in the New World Order is concentrated, are fighting those who represent the Western Order of Atlantis Magna. The woman, known under the mystical name Licorn Mordor, or the Red-Brown Unicorn, plays a special role in the rituals of this order. In physical reality, she bears the name Jane Darlington. However, the true nature of this woman fundamentally transcends the limits of individuality. Rather, she represents some kind of sacred function distributed among all women of the order, whose personal and everyday relationships reflect the ontological hierarchy of being itself. One of them corresponds to the spirit, another to the soul, and another to the body. The men of the order, including the main hero Tony D'Antremont, are also hardly individuals in a strict sense. The descriptions of death and adultery which fill Parvulesco's novel illustrate the purely functional essence of the main characters. The ritual death of one merely activates the conspirological activities of another, and when their women are unfaithful to them, they find that they remain true to one and the same essence. Thus, Atlantis Magna weaves its continental network of struggle against the conspiracy of Aquarius. On the higher, transcendental level, this means the ritual tantric realization of the eschatological phenomenon corresponding to the coming of the consoler and the wife. Only on this level can those who are building the Black Pyramids be defeated. The preparation and organization of the most mysterious ritual of the Red Circle constitutes the main trope of the novel. On their way to accomplishing this procedure, the members of Atlantis Magna embark on symbolic journeys, analyze mystical texts, seek the true causes behind political transformations, explore the oddities of the history of various ancient European ancestral lines. They decipher esoteric ideas, appearing like information leaks in ordinary tabloid literature, experience love-filled and erotic relationships, are subjected to assassination attempts, and become victims of kidnapping and torture. But all of this concrete flesh of the fascinating, detective-like novel is a continuous reading and clarification of the interconnected visionary reality of the final event of history, the manifestation of the great Eurasian Empire of the end, the regnum sacrum or imperium sacrum, whose reflections are discernible in all aspects of the modern world. On the level of political conspiracy, the novel's heroes operate actively and decisively. The spiritual resistance to New Age and Neo-Spiritualism, for whose representatives, from Alice Bailey to Teilhard de Chardin and Sai Baba, Tony D'Antremont proposes to arrange an occult super Auschwitz, a super Majdanek, is projected onto political opposition to the New World Order, Americanism, and liberalism, a confrontation which forces the agents of being to weave a network of global conspiracy with all those political forces opposed to globalism. Palestinian terrorists, underground European neo-Nazi groups, social revolutionaries, and Red Brigades, the descendants of aristocratic families who hate democracy and secretly wish to end the liberal epoch, members of the Italian mafia, Gaullists and Francoists, Third World revolutionaries, shamans from America and Asia, communist leaders, and German bankers all become participants in a geopolitical project aimed at the establishment of a final Eurasian empire. Diplomatic receptions, foreign trips, confidential talks, and intelligence gathering make up the political aspect of the conspiracy of the agents of being and a special storyline of the novel, superimposed over occult conversations and the long esoteric monologues of the story's heroes. Parvulesco's novel is not structured along the traditional logic of a complete narrative. It is altogether characteristic that the novel comes to an abrupt end midward on page 533. All the preceding contents have brought the reader close to the eschatological denouement of the occult war, but here the literary world ends, and actual reality begins. The majority of the novel's characters are historical figures, some of whom have died, while others are still alive. The books and texts cited in the tale really exist. While many of the book's episodes and retold legends are fictional, many are not. One characteristic detail is that the majority of the names mentioned are provided in parentheses with dates of birth and death. After reading Star of the Invisible Empire, a natural question arises: what exactly have we just read? A novel? Fiction? Fantasy? Surreal literature? Or, perhaps, an esoteric tract? Or is it a real revelation of the true background to modern history, seen from the standpoint of metaphysical fullness in all its volume, beyond hallucinations which are in essence all banal, everyday views explaining nothing and extremely far from the truth? In the dedication that adorns the copy presented to me, Jean Parvulesco himself called his novel a most secret and most dangerous initiatic novel in which absolute love presents its final weapon of absolute power and lays the occult foundations for the future great Eurasian empire of the end, which will be akin to the kingdom of heaven, regnum sanctum. Nothing more nor less. The Red-Brown Shiva. During one of our discussions, when I was telling Parvulesco about the meaning of the term Ars in Russian political terminology, Parvulesco became very animated and showed me a place in one of his early novels, from the mid-1970s, in which he providentially employed the very same term in a strikingly similar sense. For him, Ars are the members of the conspiracy of being, a secret network of agents of influence who are united by a common occult goal beyond political differences, and who stand against the cosmopolitan and profane civilization that has been established on the planet. Moreover, my Italian friends once sent me the copy of an article of Parvulesco's from the late 1960s in which he spoke of Eurasianism, the geopolitical project of a continental bloc, the need for a Russo-German alliance, a renewed Ribbentrop-Molotov pact, and even the need to merge red and brown into a single revolutionary, anti-globalist front. It is altogether strange how the texts of this amazing man, which remain popular only as literary works while provoking the condescending smile of academic traditionalists, preemptively described many years ago with an almost prophetic clairvoyance precisely that which has become a political fact only in recent years, in Russia, far from Europe. All of this leads to quite disturbing thoughts as to the true nature of this genius writer. Who are you, in the end, Mr. Parvulesco? The commander of Altavilla? Whoever he is, Parvulesco is undoubtedly red-brown, not least because his sympathies are with the mysterious female figure whom certain really existing initiatic societies call the red-brown unicorn, licorne Mordor. It should be noted that the French word Mordor means, more precisely, red-brown with gold or a golden tint. Besides this squeamish and derogatory term red-brown which has long since branded the most interesting political forces in Russia, there is also the royal, regal shade of this color, the final, eschatological coronation, with alchemical gold, of the great, continental Eurasian revolution. This revolution is being prepared and carried out today by Ars, the secret and overt agents of being. Yet another personage of sacred tradition is bestowed this color, the Hindu god Shiva, who is liturgically called the red-brown and the terrible. This god's character is close to the element of our red-browns. Yes, this element is terrible and destructive in its outer manifestation. But the terrible red-brown Shiva is the keeper of the secret of eternity, that which is revealed in all its entirety in the end times, when it denies with its terrible being the beginning of the age of Aquarius. Red-brown Shiva is the patron of the tradition of sacred love, Tantra, the very same Tantra to which one of Jean Parvulesco's first books, La Misericordiosa Couronne du Tantra, the merciful crown of Tantra, was dedicated. The agents of the inner continent are awake. In the night sky of our repulsive civilization appears the magic star heralding the imminent transformation of the inner into outer. This is the star of the invisible empire, the empire of Jean Parvulesco.